Hey guys, it's Kat. So, for reals, finish chapter 9 of Mercedes Lackey's Magic's Pawn, book 1 of the Last Herald Mage trilogy. This poor chapter has been dragging on, oh goodness, at least 5 months now. I am so sorry. Question of the day repeat from the last live stream at the beginning of this video, at the beginning of the last video, is if you were to have a heraldic power besides, the all ever god modding mage gift is, what heraldic power would you have besides the mage gift? I find that over god moddy and slightly annoying outside of the book range. I personally would Foresight, and if I could get it coupled with Farsight, that would be perfect. Let's see, a quick little update. I've moved again. Moving back and forth from home to school is quite an adventure. For those of you that know, college or university, as it's called some other places, it takes a lot out of you, and it's just an ordeal all over. So, shouting, possibly loud music in the background. Those are the elephants that live upstairs from me, or people loitering around outside. So, without further ado, let me try to find my spot. And let's get started, shall we, with Mercedes Lackey's Magic's Pawn, Book 1 of the Last Herald Mage trilogy, Chapter 9. For real this time. Daniel swam up out of a feverish, fitful nightmare. Prodded by an insistent voice in his head, he moaned and opened his dry, hot eyes that ached and burned. His head still pounded, and moving it even a little made his vision blur. He felt as if his whole body was a hot, tight, painfully constrictive garment. It felt like it didn't belong to him. Sunlight gleamed weakly in through a. He could see the river gurgling by just a few paces beyond it. It looked as if he were, but there were pink marble benches beside the entrance. They didn't have pink marble benches. They didn't have cultivated moss-covered floors either. He recognized the place for what it was. One of the garden grottos set in the riverbank, popular with courtals or people seeking a moment of solitude. Talendale had often wistfully expressed the wish that they dared use one. Tylendale closed around his throat and stopped his breath. No, Vaniel, chosen, not now. Mourn later. Now get up. Without knowing quite how he had gotten there, Vaniel found himself on his feet, leaning heavily on the companion. His companion. Yfander's. He tried to make sense of that, but his head spun too much and he couldn't get a good grip on any of the thoughts that half away, said the worried voice inside his mind. I cannot care for you. I did not wish you away from protection for you. You have a fever. You need healing. Move your foot. One step. Another. Ever that he was shaking and clung a little tighter to the companion's back. Obedient to that voice in his head, he put one hesitant foot in front of the other, learning quickly that he had to rest most of his weight on the arm clinging to Yfander's shoulder. He had to close his eyes after the first couple of steps and trust her to guide him. He was too dizzy and nauseated. He couldn't make any sense out of what he was seeing. They emerged into sunlight that was far too much for his eyes. He opened them once and shut them again, quickly. The companion suddenly stepped away from him and he literally fell into the arms of a strange herald. And once out of contact with Yafanda's, there were dozens of voices in his head, all of them clamorous, all of them confusing. He whimpered, tried to pull away, and hit his head in his arms. They hurt. They hurt. And he couldn't make out which were his own thoughts and which belonged to someone else. Tell your fool chosen to shield him, Dalian. That voice he recognized, although Yafandas had never spoken that sharply to him. The stranger bit off a curse and touched Vaniel's forehead, and the voice was cut off. Vaniel opened his eyes again and wished he hadn't. The world was spinning around him as the center of chaos. The world was spinning around him, with him as the center of chaos. He shut them immediately, vowing, "Let me to Entris." The voice was that of yet another stranger, rested lightly on his head, within the promise of comfort, the peace of sleep. He took what they offered, falling into oblivion gratefully. With any luck, he'd never wake up. The bed looked far too big for the boy. Never tall, he seemed to have collapsed in on himself. He was as pale as the sheets, and it might have been his dark hair and naturally fair complexion, but it seemed to her that he was worse than after his fit, was something Seville had not thought possible until now. Tylendel, oh, my Lendl, my poor, and she had tears and a hard knot in her eyes. So she missed the moment that Andrew took his hand away from the boy's forehead and sagged back into his chair with a sigh of weariness. His graying red hair damp with sweat, his freckles twice as evident with his skin so washed out. It was that sigh that brought her back to the urgent present. Anne said softly, "Can you tell me anything?" "I did what I could for him," the robed healer said to the herald. The green-robed healer replied, without looking up, "I want you to follow it, or, if you feel you can't, find me a herald made your equal. I don't believe what I saw, and to be frank, and I want a confirmation." Seville tightened her jaw and told herself again that none of this had been Brynhild's fault. Besides, she was the only herald mage at the palace who was likely to have any feelings of charity towards the boy. "I'll follow it. Have you got more to say, or I want you in there first? What I have to say is going to depend on whether you think I've gone over the edge or not." Seville raised one eyebrow in surprise, but moved in to stand beside the healer. She reached out for Angel's soothing presence as easily as she could have reached for his hand. They'd been lovers once, and had worked together often, both before and since. They exactly those arms of mine the healer had established down past of Van's mind, grief-stricken core of him. The measure of that grief would have reconciled her to him even if she had